Howdy, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Jug Life Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Vega, and today we are going to be doing our first Christmas episode. I'm unsure that we've ever done one before, but I don't think we have. And it's going to be ultra special, I think, for everybody here because it's at the top and most forefront of all of our brains, and it is the biggest story in the United States and possibly in the world. In all honesty, and that is such a really tough task to put that title to something like this. But I think that the way it encompasses so many different fronts of our everyday life and just all across the world, the implications that it's had. This event has touched the United Kingdom. It has touched places in the Middle East. And I believe that the implications and the people involved in this will continue to um, just be a much bigger problem than anybody could have ever thought. And I think that this includes a lot of people that are in positions of power, that hold levels and levers of power. And at the end of the day, this is the Epstein Files. And this is the disgusting reality of what Epstein and its people did. And this goes from Ghislaine Maxwell, his right hand woman, the person that would scout out and get these people to him and young women to him. And then it includes the people who benefited from these things. People like Donald Trump, people like Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and there are rumors of Michael Jackson being involved. Now, that is highly debated because, and this is just kind of where I'm seeing it as well, the way the administration took the time to use MJ as the forefront of this release. You know, the way that they posted it and reposted it and all ganged up on it, trying to publicize it. The image of MJ and his kids and Bill Clinton and MJ's wife. Um, it's just kind of, it really gives you some pause there. You know, the way that they're so quick to single out the left leaning people on this list, and the way that they're so happy to just kind of ignore everything else. And that's specifically when we're talking about how they're ignoring everything else. On this release, it has been said that it is approximately 0.9%, not even a whole 1% of the files. It is not even 0.9, it's like 0.87 or something like that. It's less than that, but we're not even going to worry about detailing those differences there because it's just so extraordinary, the failure of the Department of Justice to release the entirety of it and just have some sort of appearance of being transparent. Well, that approximately is 2.5 gigabytes of the 300 or so that is known. And the failure is kind of just involving a lot of the top levels of government into these decision makings, because then you come to find out that Trump is having FBI agents pulled from their assignments to start redacting his name from these files. And they've been doing this for months. They have almost probably been doing this since he got into power. We only found out about it in the last 6 months. And these aren't paper pushers. These are people that are reading over CSAM. Remember that, okay? It's not easy work. It is deeply traumatizing work for these agents. And at the end of the day, there is tranches of this stuff, and they have to. They're going to miss stuff. You're just going and going, and it's traumatizing. It is just absolutely melting every point of your brain to go through all this material. And at the end of the day, there's stuff that is going to get missed. And so we're going to see through the way that this is being handled that there is a very clear interest here in the administration to just let this thing be kind of in the background, and everybody's going to forget this at some point is their thought process. So here's Ro Khanna. Rep. Ro Khanna from California is among the foremost of the signatories for the law that was passed to get these files released. And it gave the DOJ and the powers that be a certain deadline, which is passed, to release all of them. And this is the reactions here.
We want the files out. So if our sounding the alarm on what is missing is going to help them get those files out, fine. But this shouldn't be a big document up. There's a pretty simple point. Who raped these young girls? Who covered it up? And why are they getting away with it?
And I think we can all come to an agreement so that that's a very sensible position to take.
Files out.
You know, it's reasonable to ask that the people in charge of these investigations that completely failed these victims be held to account and that they be named. And on top of that, that they stop all these damn redactions, because we know that victims were not redacted, and lo and behold, some are suing. That's just one of the unfortunate and god-awful effects of this, is that they're not only going to not get the truth, but they're going to be named and have to relive all of the stuff on top of that. And these folks are, I'm sure, prepared to be named, but if they got the truth, And so this is the letter from one of the Epstein survivors, and they are writing to the DOJ to place them on formal notice of what they've done. And that means that they're going to sue them, I would think that this will take, quite a while, but this type of stuff tends to get settled pretty quickly, and tried to, get it out of that public sphere as fast as possible. But, this is just one more example of a huge fuck up by the administration by, getting all this stuff politicized. It just leads to just atrocious mishaps, and people get hurt because of this shit. And this is what happens when you have a really dog shit administration just focused on hurting people, and they don't care who gets hurt. They just bulldoze through problems. So as we move through this, I just want to come back to the victims very quickly and emphasize that this was not done with them in mind. And the World Without Exploitation, it's a national coalition. These guys are big time in being a survivor-led group that fights for victims of sexual abuse and trafficking, and they're heroes. They've come and they've said that they're not protecting survivors with how they've done this, and we can all kind of see that by them choosing to redact the names of very powerful people, assuming, and not redacting the victims. So this is what the World Without Exploitation has come out and said. It's just them condemning the DOJ for having this be overly redacted and super selective. We know that the DOJ also went back and deleted photos that showed Trump and showed a cabinet with Trump, kind of albums, Trump photo albums. And, you also see Trump photos on the top of the cabinet, like you just would have that on top of your dresser just so you could see it all day, every day. And it's just really weird stuff that they go through and they delete that stuff, but there's no justice for the victims. No justice. It's really depressing stuff. But to roll through this, we need to understand the damage that this stuff can do to everyday people, and especially the victims. This is especially where we're going to focus here, because at the end of the day, I think that is the most important part of all this, is the damage these very wealthy and powerful men have done to American civilians and to your neighbors, sisters, brothers even. And just think about having to survive through that and then watch them just completely fumble your personal information, your trauma, and you not even be aware of it. So, you'd expect better of the government, but we're at the point that this is becoming par for the course. I think that this might actually be part of their whole plan, that this might not be a fuck up, but it might actually be intended, which just really gives a lot more pause here, because then, so we're back again to considering the fact that not only is Epstein killed under Trump, but he's also having the cover-up be by that same administration. And we're going to talk about the fact that some folks may consider, well, Biden was in power. Why didn't he do it? You need to know that Biden thought about impartiality. He thought about not having a super politicized DOJ as a good thing. He thought the independence of Merrick Garland is how it should go. And that's why shit went the way it went, because he wanted him super independent, and Merrick Garland did a dog shit job. Let's be honest here. He fucked up so much. I think that at the end of the day, the Republicans can really thank him for everything, because he is the one that just took a shit on so many investigations. And I'm not even we could go through this whole fucking list of his fuck ups, but it's just gonna make me just lose my voice. Okay, because it was endless. So, at the end of the day, the people in power have a huge gap in what they think people want and how they're doing it. And it has gone over and over again to the point of them specifically saying, we'll do that because they know what we want. But they are just now at the point where they don't give a shit and they're just going to give you less and less and less. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir here. You can go ahead, follow, subscribe, go ahead and help us get spread around. And let's keep the discourse here. Because not only do we have to deal with getting lied to and every single day being told that you're going to get what you want, you're going to get what you've asked for. At what point do you realize that you have just been lied to, spat on, and walked on? And they're still smiling at you. So, does it matter who you vote? Does it matter what you do? Does it matter how you act? Yes. Yes, it does. Because we've seen throughout this entire saga of the Epstein story how different that justice is. Ghislaine can get herself a real nice fancy prison. You will not. They can get pardons. They can pay off a bunch of people so their pedophilia can be hushed up and written off. Then they can continue for 10 years later doing what they were doing. Because that's exactly what happened here. It's not entirely surprising once you know that this guy was known in the circles. Everybody knew. After a certain point, post-Obama being in the presidency, that's around the time that this stuff gets known. And this is around the time that we see Trump, Melania, and Epstein together. So, Donald has lied. Okay, you know that. There's no doubt that he's lying about cutting off Epstein and about not being close friends. There's no doubt that he has been on that plane. So, I think from those two very simple ideas, combined with the idea that he is heavily redacting the lists themselves, the grand jury stuff, it's all fucking redacted. He wants all of it gone. So, if we take all that into account, is it possible that our president is a pedophile? And is it possible that the first lady was sold to him by Epstein? Is it possible that this is involved with another super right-wing Christian organization that makes a lot of money? Super popular. You guys might know it. Now, as we walk out of this, I want you to just remind yourself, allegedly, right? This is all hypotheses. These are theories. Conspiracy theories, some would say. But at this point, guys, I don't think we're far off from there. I don't think we're far off from the point of kind of having these wild theories be really happening. And the reason I say this is if they keep trying to hide all of this shit and they keep trying to hush it up and keep telling you, hey, it's not there. At the end of the day, whatever you believe and see isn't actually real because I can just put a black box over it or delete it and tell you that, oh, that's for national security. Well, maybe we're just really fucking stupid. Alright? Maybe. Now, if we go to war over this shit, and right now, we have the biggest armada, the biggest air force in the Caribbean and Latin South America, and this part of the world has probably ever seen. How bad is it? If we're willing to go for an oil war in Latin America in 2025, when we're tariffing half the world and in a huge economic downfall, our president's literally drooping his mouth and falling asleep live just about every time. And he is just openly doing corruption. Just enriching himself and his family all the way to heaven. Now, there's a few caveats. One, we know that Donald Trump was doing 2028 merch. And he put it on the Oval Office Resolute desk in front of these press conferences and joked about it. He even did it in front of the Speaker of the House. He did it in front of Hakeem Jeffries. He did it in front of Chuck Schumer. Did a whole freaking photo reel about it. Now, we know that Erica Kirk is backing Vance for 2028. So that means Trump is he's done with that thought. So what has changed? Something changed there. Something big. So that is what I will leave all of you with. To head into your holiday break and hang out with your family. And I know that we've just finished talking about a whole bunch of American shit for all my international listeners, but you just have to live through this one because, like I said, this probably involves your country too. The British has been touched by this. What? Well, maybe there will be more countries that get touched by this, but there are. We know Noam Chomsky was on that plane. We know MJ was on that plane, but to what extent, we don't know, because his bodyguard came out and said that actually we were just looking at houses in Miami. This is back in Jeffrey's financier days. He was selling his house. So, the main line throughout all of this seems to be that they did, through business intermediaries, know Jeffrey Epstein. But did they personally know Jeffrey Epstein is the big question. And I don't really know where any of that makes sense. I would think that these people don't have large friend groups. As we've seen with Donald, he does not have friends. And in some cases, there are some stories and theories pointing that his only friend was actually Jeffrey Epstein, his only true friend, so to speak. Now, some could go as far as saying that maybe no, that there's just friends that you don't know about. Maybe. But why not get those people in pictures with you? Why aren't you in videos with those people? Stuff like that. These are pretty public facing people. There's a lot of portions they're missing. So, why isn't there more evidence that you do have these large friend groups? That at the end of the day, you are a very popular guy, and you're not just best friends with the pedophile guy. You know? I don't know. Maybe that's a lot to ask for, but I still find it absolutely jaw dropping that maybe half the country really did vote for a pedophile. And maybe that portion of the country isn't ready to live with that. And good God, the day that realization hits, oh man, I cannot imagine the hellfire people are going to have to deal with. If that's even possible in this country anymore, for people to have shame for their actions. I've realized that amongst some portions of the right recently, it's just been more virulent racism and just outright bigotry. There is no shame left in them. Well, I will say I'm feeling quite shameful of our actions as a country recently. We are indulging in every imperialist idea known to mankind. We are messing with foreign politics. We are screwing up our own domestic politics, screwing up our economy, screwing up other people's economies. We're starting wars with other countries for the sake of oil. We are bombing people just for the sake of bombing people. We are giving other countries the ability to bomb other innocents. And no, of course, I'm not speaking about Russians because they are not innocent in the Ukrainian war, but the Palestinian people are innocent in the war of the Israeli aggression. Hamas, maybe not so much, but it is atrocious the amount of support we are extending anywhere and everywhere but here. And then on top of that, we give $40 billion to Argentina. And they go and throw a huge concert with Melee as their vocalist. Looking like a cracked out war pig. He is just an atrocious figure. I will have to say that. I'm not a big fan of Javier Milei or really just how he acts. He acts like a fucking moron. I can't stand it. But I will say that 2026 is looking beautiful. And I do think that wow, there are so many more horrors to be seen in the world. The beauty that you can find in your everyday loved ones and your neighbors, and the beauty that you can find all around you. It's so worth it. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you in the new year. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out. And if you haven't already, please follow and like. And we'll see you on the next one.